This is the ZimaBoard. Now, this is made specifically for home labs, and in this video, I'm going to kind of walk through a few different scenarios to kind of help determine, for one, does the ZimaBoard make sense for someone like me who's been doing home lab for a long time? And number two, does the ZimaBoard make sense for someone who's never done a home lab before in their life and is just getting started? I've been doing a home lab for probably close to 10 years. I've known about ZimaBoard for a long time, but I've never got around to trying it. Recently, Zima reached out to me to ask if I'd like to try this out. So this is a sponsored video. And I want to be clear in this video, there are a lot of really cool things with the ZimaBoard, but I'm not really sure if it makes sense for everyone. So we're kind of going to go through that together so you can determine if this is right for you or not. So I've chosen 5 scenarios that I want to go through and set up each scenario on this ZimaBoard so we can see how easy or how difficult it is. Before I go through the scenarios, I want to point out what makes this unique compared to something like a Raspberry Pi or a mini PC, or if you've got an old broken laptop lying around that you want to use for a home lab. What actually makes this special? To me, the coolest thing about this is it has a PCIe slot on the side here. So if you wanted to plug in extra storage, or if you wanted to plug in some extra USB ports or something like that, really easy to plug in there. Another cool thing about this is you've got some SATA ports over here, and it comes with cabling and mounting hardware. So if you want to plug in a couple SATA hard drives, you can do that super easy. And there are 2 Ethernet ports and 2 USB ports as well. So you can plug in extra storage here or a mouse or something if you want to do that. Another unique thing about this is it has CasaOS pre-installed. Now, I've used CasaOS in the past. It's not something I choose to use on a daily basis, but we'll kind of go over that together to see if it makes sense for you. But if you don't want to use CasaOS, this is x86. So you could install Windows, Linux, whatever you want to on this. So you're not limited in a hardware perspective like you might be with, say, a Raspberry Pi. And lastly, as is obvious from the design, this is a big heatsink. There is no fan in here, so this makes no sound at all. So especially if you're in an environment where you don't want sound, this is pretty sweet. For the first and easiest task, I just want to see how this is for just network storage. If you wanted to create a folder and share it with the other people in your family, how easy is that to do? Now you could plug in some SATA drives like this. You could plug this into the PCIe slot, or you could just plug it in via USB-C. I just put an SSD in here. It's not formatted or anything. So we're going to plug this in now and check it out. Okay, so we've got the ZimaBoard here, and then I'm just going to plug in the USB cable. You will need Ethernet connected to your network, so we'll plug that in there. And then I'm going to plug in the power. That's all I need to do to get this up and running. In your browser, go ahead and navigate CasaOS local. I've already created a username, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. And this is what you see from the get-go. So onboard storage, it doesn't have a lot, but you can see what I plugged in here. So if we come to files here, so it looks like it already recognizes it, so we don't really need to do anything else. And you can just use this like your typical file manager if you want to delete things. But what we want to do here is create a shared folder. So I will create a folder called banana, and we will go ahead and share this. You can see that it has a share icon here. If we come over here to copy path, it will copy the path. Let's go open a file manager. So then here we do 2 backslashes, casaos.local backslash, and then our shared folder name, banana, and we are here. So now I can create a new folder and type in mango, then come over here to banana in CasaOS, and it is here. So I've got some files here from my 360 camera. Some of these are rather large. So if we just come over here and then we drag them into Mango, you can see that it is uploading everything. It has a progress bar, and everything is being transferred directly over the network. And of course, another way we could transfer files is you could do it directly in the file directory. So we'll just move these over here. You can kind of see the speed that it's going. Not amazing, but not bad at all. Then we come back here to this folder, and we've got everything that we just transferred. And if you want to view the video or image file, you can do that directly in the file manager here. As far as setting up shared storage goes, honestly, the ZimaBoard with CasaOS on it is probably the easiest I've ever seen. You literally just click on the share button, and then once you navigate there, you're done. The next thing that we will do together is set up an ad blocker. Before we install any ad block, one thing that I'd like to do is get the IP address of CasaOS. So for the terminal here, you just type in CasaOS. That's the default username, and the password is the same, CasaOS. So once you connect here, you can run the address IP adder, press enter, and then you can see we've got the IP address of 192.168.1.210. So if we go here, you can see now we have CasaOS from the IP address or from going directly to CasaOS.local. So now that we are here, let's go to the App Store. We can type in AdBlock and see what comes up. So AdGuard Home is something that's very commonly used. In fact, I use this now, so I don't want to interfere with that on my existing server. So let's go ahead and do Pi-hole. You can do a custom install or you can just press install. We'll go ahead and just press install. CasaOS is the default password. We'll let that continue in the background so you can see it is starting the installation. And while we are doing that, you can just kind of browse through all of the other things that can be installed very easily here. All right, so we've got Pi-hole installed. We click on it, it opens up, and then we just have to remember the CasaOS password. We press enter and it looks like we are in. So before this will work for doing ad blocking, we do need to change the DNS server. Now I use OpenSense, but I'm going to change my server here to, instead of being 11, we'll go to 210 so that we can use Pi-hole for our DNS server. Go ahead and click on save. So to test this out, I just restarted my phone to reset the DNS, and then I opened Yahoo because that is a great website with tons and tons of ads. So as we scroll through, you can see there should be advertisements here. There are not because it is being blocked by Pi-hole. So now as we go into Pi-hole, you can see that there are getting a bunch of queries blocked, things that are being blocked. We can see it in real time, and you can see we had some things from Yahoo that were being blocked. You can see the top client, which this presumably is my phone, and more clients are popping up as they are refreshing their DNS. So cool beans, setting up an ad blocker, also super simple. I would say the most difficult thing for setting up Pi-hole is just getting the IP address for the ZimaBoard. The only trouble I had before was I didn't know that the username and password for the terminal was CasaOS, but once I read that, I got the IP address, plugged that into my router. Pi-hole was crazy simple to set up. So if you want an ad blocker using ZimaBoard, that really did not take that long. For the next step, I want to do a fairly simple backup, but what I want to do is offsite backup. And what I mean by that is it's easy enough to plug in a USB drive into your computer and backup files, get some redundancy. But what happens if you have a natural disaster like flooding or a fire and your main files are ruined? If you have things just plugged into your computer and your computer gets ruined, probably whatever you have plugged in is also going to get ruined. So you want offsite backup. So let's see how difficult it would be to do offsite backup with the ZimaBoard. One app I use all the time is called SyncThing. They've got it highlighted here. So let's go ahead and install this. We will press install. Now this isn't necessarily a backup per se, but more or less redundancy. But as I show you this, I will tell you why I like to use it for backup. If we go here into settings, you can see everything that is set up. But what we want to do is we want to create or add a volume for a folder that we want to back up. So the config I'm going to leave as is, but what I want to do is go to files. I want to go to my external media, and then we're going to create a new folder and call it SyncThing Offsite. Submit. So now we have a folder. This is what I'm going to use for backup. Close out of here, go back to settings. For data, we can go to our media and we can find our hard drive, and we will go ahead and say we want SyncThing Offsite. We will select. So now it knows where to look for data. We'll go ahead and press save. We'll open this up. Gives us some warning that we don't have a password set up yet. We can go to settings and set a password. But for now, I just want to sync a folder. So we will need to add a device and then a folder. So let's add a remote device. I already have the remote device set up somewhere. This is SyncThing that I installed on my computer. Here it is on the ZimaBoard. Now to add a device, I just go on here, give it a device name. I will call it mini PC because that is what it is. Press save. Then I will refresh here and it recognizes I want to add a new device. So I will go ahead and say, yes, let's go ahead and add the device. For the device name, I'm going to write ZimaBoard, click on save. So now my ZimaBoard can connect to my mini PC. The next thing we want to do is add a folder. Now there is a folder by default. I'm going to get rid of this because I don't need it. So we will go ahead and remove. So back in the ZimaBoard, I'm going to go to files, go to the external USB drive, and we've got sync thing offsite. I want to create a new folder and call it current projects. Now when I work on current projects, I always have them saved in a couple places so I don't lose anything. Now we'll go back to sync thing. We will add a folder. For the folder path, if we just press slash, it will highlight what we can do. Let's do data plus press slash again, and it recognizes that current projects is there. So we'll go there, give it a name, current projects. For sharing, we want to share this with the mini PC. For file versioning, you can do a bunch of different things. You can have trash can file versioning or whatever. We'll just go ahead and say we don't want any versioning because this is just for redundancy. Usually I do choose trash can versioning, but for now we'll just say no file versioning. You don't need to worry about any patterns or anything advanced. Let's click on save. As soon as we do that, it recognizes on our computer that a folder is being shared with us. So we come over here, we go to add. We want to keep the same folder label name, current projects. I actually have this called ongoing projects drive. So we'll come in here, copy this, click out of that. Then for the folder path, we can paste that here. For sharing, it's already selected ZimaBoard because that is what is shared with us. We'll keep the same no file versioning. We'll press save. And now what this is going to do is it's just going to sync both folders and say whatever is not on one folder, let's put it on the other. If we delete from one, it deletes from the other. So now if we come over here to current projects, we can see it's already being filled with plenty of data. We can go to the 3D printer folder. So this will take a while. So we can see the current progress here, and this updates as it reads all the files. It is going to take a while to sync all the files back and forth. The great thing about sync thing is it does add some redundancy. So I know whatever I'm working on my computer, I have all my current projects backed up wherever the ZimaBoard is. Now I have the ZimaBoard in my house right now. What my plan is to go take it over to my brother's house, have him plug it into the network. But of course, if you're taking it somewhere else, you will want everything to be encrypted. So if you come over here to the current projects folder, click on that. We're going to go ahead and edit that. So we will go ahead and add a password and press save. Now everything is password protected with my password. One of my favorite things about my home lab is replacing Google Photos. I used Google Photos for years, but when they changed some of the limitations, I decided that that was one of the things I wanted to do with my home lab. Currently, I use EMMC and it is wonderful and amazing, but that's not one of the options on the ZimaBoard. So we're going to try a slightly different method. What we're going to do is we're going to put sync thing on our phone, and then anytime we take a picture or a video, we will sync it to our ZimaBoard, and then we'll use Photo Prism as our photo and video viewer. So we will go ahead and open sync thing. By default, it wants to back up the camera folder, but I don't have any devices added. So we will go ahead and press this, and let's scan the QR code for our ZimaBoard sync thing, and we will just give this the name of ZimaBoard. So now we want to share this folder, but I'm going to go ahead and do it from ZimaBoard so we can prepare some space on our ZimaBoard. If we go back to files, let's go back to our USB drive. Let's create a new folder, and we will just call this phone photos. I want to go back to sync thing and go back to the settings because I realize I probably don't want to sync just this folder, but we will do the 1 terabyte SSD. So let me get rid of that and save. So now that we have things set up on ZimaBoard, we'll come in here. We'll go ahead and share with ZimaBoard. So we'll click that on. And this is important. Now by default, it is send only. And what that means is it's going to send the files to the ZimaBoard, but whatever changes are made on the ZimaBoard is not reflected here. So now if we go back to the ZimaBoard, you can see it wants to add. We will go ahead and add the device. That name is fine. That's the phone. And it took about 10 to 15 seconds to show up, but this just popped up. We want to go ahead and add this folder label camera. That looks fine. Folder path. So again, we will want to come to data, and it looks like we've got phone photos. So that's the folder that we created. So that looks good. Sharing is fine. File versioning fine. And then for folder type, you can do send and receive. We don't want to send. I don't know if it would allow us anyway with what we have on the phone, but here we want to do receive only, and I will go ahead and save. Let me take some pictures real quick. All right, so now if we go to files and go to our USB storage, you can see there's a camera folder in there, and all of the images I just took are showing up. Cool beans. So let's close out of there. So now what we want to do is set up Photo Prism. So let's type in a photo, and we will go ahead and let's do a custom install. Let's see what information we need here. So looks like the password again is CasaOS, but let's go ahead and change this over to the same. We want phone photos, so we will select that. That's where our original files are, and I've never set this up before, so I don't know if this will work or not, but we're gonna find out. Okay, and it shows up, so let's go ahead and open that. So let's try CasaOS, password CasaOS, probably, maybe. Valid credentials. Oh no, I don't know what the credentials are. Admin? Oh, it's admin. All right, no pictures found. Please rescan your library. We may have to set up a library. Oh, here we go. Library, complete rescan. Reindex all originals, including already indexed. Press a button to start indexing. I assume this searches recursively, so we should be fine. It looks like it found something, so we should be in business. There we go. My picture shows up. Nice. All right, there's one more important thing I forgot to mention with sync thing. You'll notice the pictures I took are mostly deleted because I deleted them from my phone. So what we want to do is come to actions and advanced, and then we'll go to folders. We'll go to our camera folder, and we want to click on ignore delete. So that means if we delete it from our phone, it's going to ignore it here and it's going to keep it on this device. So we will go save. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go outside, take a bunch of photos and videos with my phone, go eat dinner with my family. We should come back and I should be able to open up Photo Prism, and all of the photos and videos I took should show up there. Then I'm going to delete everything from my phone, then take some more photos, and all of those photos should stay there, but the new photos I took should also still be there. I'll be back. All right, well, I just came back from taking a bunch of pictures, and as you can see, they are here. I'm going to delete all the files on my phone and take some more. I'll be right back. All right, well, I just deleted all the photos. It looks like the new photos I took are here, and all the other photos I deleted from my phone are also still here. So that took a bit more work, but I was able to get it done using SyncThing and Photo Prism. Like I mentioned earlier, right now I use Image for my self-hosting photos, and it works really well. And in fact, I tried to install Image on CasaOS. What I did is I installed Portainer, and then I tried to use Portainer to install Image. I never got it working, and I probably could have got it working, but I wanted to see what the experience was like with the least amount of effort, because I figured if I'm doing more effort to get it to work, it's not really worth it for me since I already have a solution. But using SyncThing is a solution I actually previously used. I've never used Photo Prism before, but this solution does work well once you have everything set up. The last thing I want to set up is just a media server. Now I have Plex set up right now. I've set up Jellyfin before, but I want to set up Jellyfin in CasaOS, see how easy or difficult it is. I went ahead and I added a Jellyfin folder in my file storage. I added some movies, TV, and music. So let me go ahead and set that up. Let's see how easy this is. So here is the Jellyfin folder with the different files. We'll close out of this. So Jellyfin just is not working for me. So instead of doing Jellyfin, I'm going to try MB. I've actually never tried MB before, so we will see if this is any easier. All right, so there's something unique here in MB. We can go ahead and specify the TV shows and movies here. We could probably do this later in NB if it's like Plex, but let's go ahead and just do that. So here we'll go to the Jellyfin folder, then TV. We've got that. Let's do movies, and let's go ahead and add a volume, and we will do music. music and see if it works the same way. Go ahead and save that, and we'll see if we have any more luck with MB. Quick start guide, that's a little bit more promising. We'll go ahead and do English, and it is asking for a password. Looks like this is going to work. Set up media libraries. Okay, so it didn't really set up anything for us, but we'll go to movies, display name movies, folders. We will add the movie. Presumably it is just data movies, and okay. I don't know if I have to do any of that. I'm just gonna go ahead and say okay. So we've got movies. Let's add 2 more libraries. Okay, so we've got this added. We go next. Sure, we're done. So let me go ahead and sign in. Looks like it's still scanning music, but movies are showing up. TV show is showing up. Pretty nice. So if we press play on Strange Brew, and that's playing just fine. Full screen that. All right, this is a classic. Nice. So that was interesting. Jellyfin did not work out of the gate. MB did. We have Plex that we could have tried as well. I think that just points out that CasaOS still has some room for improvement. Now, as I mentioned before, I've used CasaOS before. It was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And I must say, comparing back then to now, I can see they're already making a lot of improvement. There's a lot more advanced options. There's a lot more that you can do. There are more apps added. So that's a good sign. So what do I think about the ZimaBoard for a beginner? Is this what I would suggest, or would I suggest like a Raspberry Pi or a mini PC or something like that? Honestly, for someone just getting into home labs, this is probably one of the best options. The reason I say that is it's low powered. There's a bunch of different ways you can connect storage, and getting into CasaOS and instantly adding storage or installing an app is easier on this than anything else I've done by far. So if you're just wanting to play around with something or start something new, or if you just want to set up basic file storage, this is super simple. This has been running all day. It is a little bit warm, but it's not hot. I really like the hardware and design for this. Just really slick, super simple to use. So yeah, if you're thinking of setting up a home lab, this is not expensive. It works really well. And CasaOS, I think, is good, especially for beginners. For someone like me who's been doing home lab for a lot of years, I think part of my hesitation with CasaOS is mostly just because I'm not used to it. That wasn't the way I did things initially. So a lot of the things I want to do on this, I want to do the way I've always been doing. So that might be something I need to unlearn to get better using CasaOS. But what about someone like me who has done a lot of home labbing before? Is this something I would recommend? The reality is, for the price of this, I could probably get a mini PC with slightly better specs. Now, this is very well priced, so I don't think I could get anything significantly better, but definitely something slightly better. Although the fanless option is a little bit more difficult to find, and something with 2 Ethernet ports, and there's nothing with PCIe. So this is unique enough in a way that you're definitely getting your money's worth. It's not like this is an overpriced piece of hardware. And obviously I could get this and I could install home lab stuff the way I've always been doing. I typically install Open Media Vault. I use Portainer for a lot of things. So I could absolutely do that on this and run it just like I would with any other mini PC, but this doesn't quite have the specs that I'm using on my mini PC right now. So for that reason, not really interested in this for doing more home labs than I already do. That being said, I've actually talked to my brother about doing offsite file sync or backup, and he has kind of the same idea that I do, where he might do something similar and bring it to my house so he can do some redundant backups, and I can take this to his house, set it up. All he would have to do is plug in the power, plug in Ethernet. That's it. So that's what I intend to use this for, and I think it's going to be great at that. I feel much more comfortable putting something like this in his house than like a mini PC or something else like that. There's no power button on this. All you do is plug it in. There's really no way to mess it up as long as you have your Ethernet plugged in and your power. And of course, you do have to decide how you want to plug in your storage, either via USB or SATA or PCIe, which honestly, that's really cool that you have all those options. This is a cool device. And if you want to play around with CasaOS, you don't need the ZimaBoard to do it. You can just download CasaOS. It's open source. It's free to anyone to download and try it out. So if you think you like the idea of this, but you're not quite certain about CasaOS, go ahead and install it on some other computer that you might have. Try it out, see if you like it. But if you're someone getting into home labs and you want the easiest way possible that's not expensive, yeah, absolutely, I would recommend this. This thing's pretty sweet. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.